30 seconds. That's all it took for a killer's mask to crack on live television. One moment, he's calmly describing his missing neighbor to a reporter. The next, his face drains of all color as breaking news shatters his carefully constructed lie. The camera captured everything. The widening eyes, the trembling hands, the voice that suddenly can't form words. This wasn't shock. This was a predator realizing he'd just been caught. Tighten your seatbelt, because this true crime story will leave you questioning everyone you think you know. If you're already hooked, hit that like button. Subscribe for the darkest cases that'll keep you up at night, and comment below what you think gave him away. Let's dive into the nightmare. Macon, Georgia. Summer of 2011. A town where Spanish moss drapes the oak trees, and people still wave to strangers. This wasn't supposed to be a place where monsters lived. Lauren Giddings had just conquered the bar exam at 27, her entire future stretching out before her like a golden highway. A prestigious law firm, a career built on justice, friends who adored her, that infectious smile that made everyone in the room feel seen. She lived in a modest apartment complex near Mercer University's law school, surrounded by fellow students grinding toward their own dreams. One of those students lived right next door, separated from Lauren by nothing but a thin wall. His name was Stephen McDaniel, 25 years old, nerdy glasses, awkward in conversations, the kind of guy who faded into the background of every room, helpful, even, always volunteering for search parties when someone went missing. Harmless, everyone said. Just another law student obsessed with his studies. Maybe a little socially stunted, but nothing alarming. Lauren knew him from classes, exchanged pleasantries in the hallway. Nothing more. At least, that's what the world saw. What they didn't see was happening in the darkness. June 26, 2011. Lauren disappeared. When she missed a planned outing and her phone went straight to voicemail, her friends knew something was catastrophically wrong. Lauren didn't just vanish. Within hours, missing person flyers papered the town. The law school community mobilized. Search parties fanned out across Macon. And right there, front and center, was Stephen McDaniel. Concerned, articulate, even volunteering to speak with the local news station, WGXA, about his missing neighbor. The footage from that interview would become one of the most chilling pieces of evidence in true crime history. Stephen stood there, composed, describing Lauren as a great person. His slight smile never wavered as he expressed hope she'd be found safe. He looked like every other worried student. Then the reporter pressed her finger to her earpiece, her expression changing. She turned to Stephen with breaking news. We just learned that a body or part of a body has been found in a trash bin near the apartment complex. Watch what happens next. Stephen's face transforms in real time. The color doesn't just drain. It evacuates like his blood has turned to ice water. His eyes go wide, pupils dilating. A body? He stammers, the words barely forming. His hands start trembling. I think I need to sit down, he mumbles, stumbling backward, away from the microphone, away from the camera that's capturing his complete psychological collapse. The interview ends with Stephen walking away, visibly shaking. Most viewers watching at home thought they'd witnessed shock. The natural human response to learning a friend might be dead. Investigators watching that same footage saw something entirely different. They saw guilt screaming from every pixel. The body found in that trash bin was Lauren's torso, wrapped in plastic like garbage. More remained scattered nearby in a disposal pattern that screamed panic and inexperience. Cause of death: strangulation. The dismemberment had been done with a hacksaw, brutal and clumsy. The autopsy revealed she'd been dead for days. This wasn't random violence. This was personal. This was someone who had access to her. Someone close. Every arrow pointed to the neighbor. Stephen McDaniel lived next door. They shared a wall. That television interview had transformed from a curious moment into a smoking gun. The way his demeanor shifted wasn't shock. It was a reaction of someone realizing his perfect crime had just unraveled on live TV. Detectives brought him in for questioning, and what followed was unlike anything they'd ever witnessed. 2 hours of interrogation footage that still makes seasoned investigators uncomfortable. Stephen sat in that room like a mannequin, didn't move, didn't fidget, barely blinked. When detectives left him alone, he remained frozen, eyes locked on the wall, his body completely still except for the subtle rise and fall of his chest. Not nervous energy, not fidgeting, nothing. One detective later described it as the most unsettling interview of his 30-year career. It was like interrogating a machine that had powered down. He wasn't even pretending to be human anymore. But machines leave digital footprints. The search warrant on Stephen's computer opened a door into a mind that had been rotting in darkness for years. His hard drive was a horror show. Searches for how to commit the perfect murder, tutorials on body dismemberment, hours of violent pornography focused on strangulation, and the evidence that would seal his fate. Videos he'd secretly recorded of Lauren through her window, months of stalking, cataloged in high definition. He'd hacked the building security system to obtain a master key, granting him access to her apartment whenever he wanted. Stolen items from her home, including underwear. Online posts where he fantasized about hurting women in graphic detail. One video stood out. Stephen had filmed himself outside Lauren's window at night, lurking in the shadows, watching her live her life while he fantasized about ending it. Computer timestamps told the story. How to choke someone unconscious searched just 3 days before the murder. Receipt records showed he'd purchased a hacksaw the week before Lauren died. Every piece of evidence formed a mosaic of premeditated evil. When confronted with a digital mountain of proof, Stephen's robot facade finally cracked. In his confession, he admitted breaking into Lauren's apartment in the early morning hours of June 26. He claimed he snapped during an argument, a lie investigators never believed. He strangled her, then panicked. In his bathtub, he dismembered her body with a hacksaw, methodically cutting her into pieces he thought he could dispose of unnoticed. He dumped the remains in trash bins, gambling that a garbage truck will remove the evidence before anyone discovered it. The truck was delayed. The body was found. His gamble failed. But why? Why does a law student, someone supposedly dedicated to justice, become a monster? The evidence painted a portrait of festering obsession. Lauren represented everything Stephen wasn't: successful, beloved, ascending toward a brilliant future, while he floundered in social inadequacy. The psychology is textbook. Jealousy transformed into rage. Rejection warped into a need for ultimate control. Forensic psychologists who later analyzed him identified classic narcissistic personality, disorder with psychopathic traits. Someone capable of compartmentalizing murder while playing concerned neighbor on camera. By 2014, Stephen McDaniel stood charged with malice murder, with prosecutors pursuing the death penalty. Pre-trial hearings showed him sitting with his defense team, occasionally smiling, whispering legal strategies like this was a moot court exercise. He was a law student. He understood the system. He thought his legal knowledge might save him. His attorneys fought to suppress the computer evidence, arguing unlawful search. The judge denied every motion. The walls were closing in. The prosecution built their case around the overwhelming digital evidence, the confession, and that devastating television interview. During hearings, they presented the surveillance footage Stephen had taken of Lauren, spliced with his confession tape, and the news interview where his guilt exploded across his face. Lauren's family filled the courtroom, their grief palpable. Stephen sat composed, that subtle smile flickering at the corners of his mouth, maintaining the illusion of control. Then reality crushed him, faced with the death penalty and evidence so overwhelming that even his own attorneys saw the inevitable. Stephen's legal team brokered a deal. In August 2014, rather than face a jury that would almost certainly send him to death row, Stephen McDaniel stood before the judge and pleaded guilty to malice murder. The smile was gone. His voice was hollow as he said, "I'm sorry for what I did." Words that carried no weight, no genuine remorse. The judge sentenced him to life in prison, without possibility of parole. Lauren's family spoke through tears about the brilliant light that Stephen had extinguished. A daughter, a friend, a future lawyer who would have changed lives, all of it stolen by the man who lived next door. The courtroom victim impact statements painted a portrait of a family shattered, of dreams incinerated, of a loss that would echo through generations. Stephen has since attempted multiple appeals, claiming ineffective counsel and challenging evidence suppression. In 2018, a judge denied his bid for a new trial, citing the insurmountable mountain of proof. He currently resides in Georgia Diagnostic and Classification Prison, spending his days in isolation. The law career he once envisioned replaced by concrete walls and the knowledge that he'll die behind them. The trial testimonies revealed the warning signs everyone missed. Lauren's roommate remembered how Stephen asked too many questions about Lauren's schedule, always fishing for information about when she'd be home, when she'd be alone. A classmate testified about seeing him lurking near her apartment after midnight, standing in shadows, watching her windows. The lead detective described the interrogation footage. "I've sat across from hundreds of killers." McDaniel was different. He was robotic, calculated, emotionless, until we showed him the evidence. Then he broke like glass. A forensic psychologist who analyzed Stephen's behavior explained the smiling. It's a classic narcissistic control mechanism, maintaining superiority even while facing life imprisonment. But when confronted with irrefutable proof, when his fantasy of outsmarting the system collided with reality, the mask couldn't hold. That moment destroyed his delusion, she testified. He finally had to face what he was. The judge's final words at sentencing cut through Courtroom. "You took a young woman with her entire life ahead of her and murdered her in the most brutal way imaginable. Then you stood before cameras and played the concerned friend while her dismembered body lay hidden feet away. You are a danger to society, and society will be protected from you for the rest of your natural life." This case forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Evil doesn't always look like the monsters in movies. Sometimes evil wears glasses and studies law and volunteers for search parties. Stephen McDaniel was educated, articulate, training for a career in justice, and he used all of that to hunt and kill a young woman whose only crime was living next door. It's a reminder that predators hide in plain sight, that the person smiling at you might be wearing a mask. The digital forensics in this case revolutionized how investigators approach modern murders. Without Stephen's computer, without the videos he'd arrogantly saved, this case might have gone cold. Technology became both his weapon and his downfall. He used it to stalk Lauren, and it preserved the evidence that would imprison him forever. Lauren's death also sparked changes at Mercer University. Campus security protocols were overhauled. Master keys were restricted. Training programs about recognizing stalking behaviors were implemented. Her tragedy became a catalyst for protecting other students, though it came at a price no family should ever pay. The lesson buried in this nightmare is simple but vital. Trust your instincts. Lauren's friends later admitted they felt uncomfortable around Stephen, but dismissed it as paranoia.
Those quiet alarm bells ringing in your subconscious exist for a reason. When someone seems off, even if you can't articulate why, even if they're smiling, pay attention. Don't brush it off. That discomfort might save your life. This is a story of a smiling killer caught by his own arrogance, by a camera that captured the moment his lies died, by the digital evidence he thought he'd hidden. If this case gripped you, if it made you see the world differently, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more deep dives into the cases that expose the darkness hiding in plain sight. Drop a comment. Which moment shocked you most? The live TV interview reaction or the weight of evidence that crushed him in court? Vote A for the interview, B for the evidence. Check out the playlist for more cases that'll haunt you. Stay vigilant out there, and remember, the truth doesn't stay buried forever. See you next time.